My sister was standing on the fitting platform in my wedding dress when I walked in, and the first thing she said was, "Oh, don't be weird about it. Not sorry. Not, I can explain. Don't be weird about it." As if the weird thing in the room was me, arriving at my own dress fitting, and not her, pinned into 800,001 of ivory silk that had my measurements sewn into the seams. My fiancé was there too, Jamin, sitting on the little velvet bench the boutique keeps for grooms and fathers, holding a paper cup of the boutique's free champagne, looking at my sister on the platform the way you are supposed to look at your bride. He did not stand up when I came in. He did a small guilty shift, the kind a man does when he has decided in advance that whatever happens next is going to be your fault, and he is just waiting for you to prove it. Dasam wanted to see how it looked, my mother said. From the second velvet bench, my mother was there too. Everyone was there. It was. I understood. A viewing? She has your figure. Almost. We thought it would be fun. Fun. I want to tell you that I was surprised, but I was not, because I had seen this exact tableau before. Same boutique, same dress, same 3 people arranged like a family portrait of my replacement, in the version I am not going to spend much time on. I walked into this room and I screamed, and I pulled the dress, and there was a sound of tearing silk that everyone in that boutique remembers to this day, and my sister cried, and my mother said, "Da Yun, it's a dress." And my fiancé stood up at last, finally, for that. He stood up and put his arm around my crying sister and looked at me over the top of her head with an expression of profound disappointment. And that was the photograph. That was the one that got taken, not the sister in the bride's dress. The bride, red-faced and shrieking, tearing silk off a weeping girl. I lost the wedding that day, though it took 4 more months to become official. I lost it in the 90 seconds it took me to become the woman in that photograph. The engagement ended by mutual decision, which is the phrase families use when they have chosen a side and would like it to sound like weather. Jamin married my sister 14 months later. My mother cried at their wedding. I was not invited. But I heard she cried. And I heard she said Dasam was always the one with the softer heart. And I spent a decade after that believing that my hard heart was the reason I had lost everything, when the truth was that my hard heart was the only thing I had that they could not use. And I had handed it to them anyway, in a boutique, wrapped in torn silk. So this time, standing in the doorway, looking at my sister in my dress and my fiancé on his bench, and my mother arranging the light, I did the one thing none of them had a plan for. I smiled. "It looks better on you," I said. "Honestly, you've got the shoulders for it." You could hear the boutique's air conditioning. My sister's face did a complicated thing. She had come dressed for a fight. You always dress for the fight you are planning. And she was planning mine. The tearing and the shrieking and the silk. My compliment landed in the space where my scream was supposed to go, and there was nothing behind it to push against. And she wobbled. Actually, physically wobbled. On the platform. Really," she said. "Really, turn around. Let me see the back." She turned around, because she did not know what else to do. And I looked at the back of my sister in my wedding dress. And I thought, with a clarity that felt almost restful, he is welcome to her. And I meant it, not as a wound, as a decision. In the life I am not going to dwell on, I fought for 11 months to keep a man who sat on a velvet bench drinking free champagne while my sister modeled my dress. And I would rather have died. I did rather die. Eventually. Small and bitter in a rented office than understood, in time, that the correct response to being replaced is not to fight for your place. It is to let the replacement go ahead, in public. with witnesses, and let everyone watch what it actually costs. Because a substitution only works if the original makes a scene. The scene is what turns it from their betrayal into your jealousy. Without the scene, it is just 3 people in a boutique looking at a dress, and a 4th person, calm, saying it looks better on you. And now the room has to sit with the actual shape of what they are doing, which is much, much worse when nobody is screaming to cover the sound. "Mom's right," I said, sitting down on the arm of Jameen's bench, close enough that he flinched. "It is fun. Dasam. Keep it on for a bit. Let's all look." And I picked up the boutique's little laminated card of alteration prices from the side table, the one with the atelier's logo and the itemized costs. And I held it, and I smiled at my family. And I began. Here is what I knew that they did not know I knew. I had planned the entire wedding, not helped plan, planned, booked, negotiated, deposited, and paid for, out of my own account, because I was an event coordinator by trade, and because Jamin's money was tied up in the restaurant, and my mother's contribution was moral support, which she gave generously and at volume. The dress was on my card. The venue deposit was on my card. The atelier had my card on file for the alterations. The florist, the hall, the catering tasting, the invitations sitting half addressed in a box in my apartment. Mine, all of it. Every receipt with my name on it. Because I was the competent one, the reliable one, the one who made things happen while my sister was praised for her soft heart and her fun ideas. In the life I am skipping over. This was my humiliation. He let me pay for the wedding he took from me. I gave him a wedding as a dowry, and he used it to marry my sister. I have spent lifetimes being ashamed of that. This time I looked at it and saw something else entirely. I saw that a wedding is not a promise. A wedding is a project, and I was the project manager. And a project manager who stops managing does not cause a scene. She just stops. And the project, which everyone assumed ran on its own, begins very quietly to reveal how much of it was one person holding 100 threads. So I did not cancel anything. That is the part people get wrong. Canceling is a scene. Canceling is an announcement, a declaration, a thing my mother could narrate to the relatives as Da-un threw a tantrum and blew up the whole wedding out of spite. No, I did not cancel a single thing. I simply stopped adding to it and stopped protecting it and let every automatic system I had so carefully set up continue to run. Pointed, now, at the 2 people standing in my place. The atelier first, before I left the boutique that day. I went to the counter, pleasant as anything, and I spoke to the manager, a sharp woman named Director Ma who had fitted 1,000 brides and missed nothing. "My sister's going to be wearing the dress for the photos," I said, "so the final alterations should be to her measurements, not mine. Can you remeasure her today and adjust the invoice?" Director Ma looked at me, then she looked, past me, at my sister still on the platform, and my fiancé on the bench, and my mother arranging them. And she did the arithmetic. I was hoping a woman who had fitted 1,000 brides would do. "To the sister's measurements," she repeated, carefully, "and the invoice." "Everything to her measurements," I said, "and send the itemized invoice and the fitting photos to the account on file. The way you always do, don't leave anything off. I want a complete record of exactly what was altered and for whom." I smiled. "For the family, we share everything." What Director Ma did not know, and what my sister and my mother and my fiancé had all forgotten, because none of them had ever once handled the logistics, was that the account on file for this wedding, the email, the phone number, the confirmations, the automatic photo delivery, all of it was not just mine. It was the family group chat. I had set it up that way months earlier. back when I was the happy, competent bride. Because it was efficient. Because I wanted my mother and my sister and my aunts to see the dress options and vote on the flowers and feel included. Every atelier confirmation, every invoice, every fitting photo, automatically forwarded to a chat with 14 people in it. My mother, my sister, Jaemin, both aunts, my grandmother, the cousins, Jaemin's mother. I had built, months before I needed it, a machine that would take whatever happened in that boutique and deliver it, itemized and photographed and time-stamped, to every single person whose good opinion my sister and my fiancé depended on. And I had built it as an act of love. And it was still running, and all I had to do was not turn it off. There is a detail here that I want to give you, because it is the difference between revenge and what I actually did. And the difference is everything. I did not add anyone to that group chat that day. I did not forward the photos to a single new person. I did not create the machine in that moment, in anger, as a trap, because a machine built in anger looks like a machine built in anger, and the person who springs it owns the result. What I did was much quieter and much more devastating. I left a machine I had built months earlier, out of love, exactly as it was, and I declined to disconnect it. That is a legal and moral distinction I understood in my bones by then. If I had screenshotted the fitting and posted it to the family with a caption, I would have been the vengeful ex-bride, and the conversation would have been about my cruelty. But the atelier's automated system, sending its routine confirmation to an account I had set up in happier times for entirely innocent reasons, that was not my cruelty. That was just the truth. Arriving on schedule. Through a pipe I had laid myself and simply chosen not to cap. Nobody can accuse you of pouring the water when all you did was decline to plug the drain you built back when you still thought the house was yours. Of course, said Director Ma, who understood everything now. The full record, to the account on file. Thank you, I said. You've been wonderful. And I walked out of the boutique without tearing anything. And behind me, my sister was being remeasured in my dress for her own body, and the numbers were being written down, and the camera was coming out for the fitting photos, and somewhere 14 phones were about to start. The photos hit the group chat at 4:12 that afternoon. I know the exact time because I was having coffee, alone, and I watched it happen on my own phone like a woman watching a kettle she already knows is going to boil. The atelier's system did exactly what it was built to do. It sent a cheerful automated message. Thank you for your fitting. Here is your alteration summary and today's photos to the account on file, which was 14 people, and it attached the itemized invoice and 11 photographs. 11 photographs of my sister, in my wedding dress, being measured, laughing, posing, with my fiancé visible on his bench in 4 of them, holding his champagne. And the invoice, line by line, bodice taken in 4 centimeters, hem raised for a shorter bride, bust adjusted, all of it under a header that read, because I had asked Director Ma to leave nothing off. Alterations. Garment originally fitted for Yoon Da Yoon, now altered for Yoon Da Som. I did not write a word. That was the whole art of it. I did not caption the photos. I did not add, so what is this? I did not need to. I had spent a lifetime learning that the person who narrates is the person who gets blamed. And I was done narrating. I let the atelier's cheerful robot do the talking, and I let 14 people look at 11 photographs and 1 invoice with 2 sisters' names on it, and I let the silence that followed be entirely, completely theirs. The chat, which was usually a stream of my mother's forwarded fortune-telling videos, went quiet for 6 minutes. 6 minutes. 14 people. No one typing. I could feel them all looking. I could feel the aunts screenshotting. I could feel Jamin's mother, who had never liked my sister, who had chosen me specifically because I was the responsible one who would keep her feckless son in line, putting on her glasses. The first message was from my grandmother. My grandmother is 81 and does not understand that the group chat is not a private line to me, she typed. In the careful two-fingered way of the very old. Daun, ah. Why is Dasam wearing your dress? Did something happen? And that was the match. Because now it was a question. Asked in public, by the family matriarch, and it was hanging there in front of 14 people, and it could not be unasked. My mother, who could manage me one-on-one in a boutique, could not manage my grandmother in a group chat with both aunts watching. My sister could not cry her way out of a time-stamped invoice. And Jamin was in 4 of the photographs, holding champagne. And there is no version of your overreacting that survives photographic evidence of you drinking sparkling wine at your sister-in-law's fitting for your fiancé's dress. I let it sit for 11 more minutes. I finished my coffee. Then I typed the only thing I would say. And I made it warm. And I made it short. And I made it impossible to argue with. Nothing happened. Grandma. Dasam has always loved that dress. She's going to wear it beautifully. I'm so happy things worked out the way everyone wanted. Read it again. There is not one false word in it. There is not one accusation. There is not one thing my mother could point to and say, see. She's being dramatic. And yet every single person in that chat understood. Reading it. Exactly what had happened. Because the way everyone wanted told them that a wanting had occurred, and that I had known about it, and that I was, with terrifying calm, stepping out of its way. Then Jamin's mother typed, and Jamin's mother, I should explain, was not a woman who typed things lightly. She was old soul money, the kind that considers a group chat slightly beneath it, and she had chosen me for her son precisely because I was the sensible one, the one who would keep his restaurant's books and his temper in check. She had invested in me as one invests in infrastructure. And now she was looking at 11 photographs of her son drinking champagne while a different girl was pinned into the dress the sensible daughter-in-law had paid for. She typed, I would like to know what is happening. From Jamin, directly, not from a chat. Which was, in the language of old soul money, a scream. My sister tried. Then, she typed a long message. I could see the 3 dots appear and vanish and appear again for almost 2 minutes. The tell of a person rewriting a lie until it sounds like a feeling. And what finally came out was, it's not what it looks like. We were just having fun. Unnie said it was okay. Why is everyone attacking me? And there it was. Unnie said it was okay. She had, out of pure reflex, reached for the oldest tool in our shared childhood. Make it my fault. Make it my permission. Make me the adult who authorized the thing so that she could remain the child who only played. In our whole first life, that move had worked every single time. Because I had always confirmed it. Yes, I said it was fine. Yes, I gave it to her. Yes. Don't blame Dasam. This time I simply did not confirm it. I let Unnie said it was okay. Sit in the chat. Unsupported. Next to an invoice that said the dress had been recut from my measurements to hers. And I let 14 people notice that the permission had a shape that did not match the paperwork. My aunt, the sharp one, my mother's younger sister, who had watched my mother favor Dasam for 29 years and never said a word, typed 4 characters. Just. And then she typed, whose card paid for the dress? I did not answer that one. I did not have to. The question was now loose in the world, in front of 14 people. And the answer was, on an invoice everyone had already seen. And I had learned, across more life than I'm going to explain, that the most powerful thing you can do with a question that damns other people is to leave it unanswered in a room full of witnesses. Dasam came to my apartment the next morning, before the aunts had finished screenshotting, and she came the way she always came when she wanted something, which was crying already, preloaded, so that whatever I said next would be said to a person who was crying and would therefore be cruel. This was her best weapon, and she had used it on me our whole lives. Dasam cries first. She cries the way other people clear their throat before a speech, as an opening, a framing, a way of assigning the roles before the scene begins. If she is crying, then she is the one being hurt. And if she is the one being hurt, then I am the one hurting her. And it does not matter what actually happened, because the tears got there first and set the terms. You have to fix it, she said, in the doorway, wet-faced. Everyone's saying things. Aunt Mi-kyung called Mom. Jamin's mother is being horrible to me. You have to go in the chat and tell everyone it was a misunderstanding. Please, Unnie, please. You're the only one who can fix it. And I looked at my little sister, 25 years old, standing in my doorway asking me to publicly take the blame for her wearing my wedding dress to meet my fiancé. And I felt the old machinery try to start, the machinery that had run my whole first life, the reflex that said, she's your sister. She's crying. Fix it. Smooth it. Absorb it. You're the strong one. It's what you do. I did not fix it. I can't fix it. Dasam, I said, and I said it gently. Because gentleness was the knife here. Not warmth's opposite, but its most precise form. There's nothing to fix. Nothing was broken by a misunderstanding. It was all understood perfectly. That's the problem. You could just say, I could just lie, I said. That's what you're asking. You want me to go into the chat and tell 14 people, including Grandma, that they didn't see what they saw? And I've done that for you your whole life. Dasam. Every time you took something of mine, I told everyone I'd given it to you. Every time you broke something, I said I broke it. I have been fixing the record for you since we were children, and I only just noticed that the thing I was always fixing was the truth. And the person it was always being fixed against was me. I stepped back from the door. I'm not doing it anymore. Not because I hate you. I don't. But I'm out of the lying business. If you want people to think well of you, you'll have to do it the hard way now. You'll have to actually not take your sister's dress. She switched. Then, the way she always eventually switched when the crying did not work, from tears to venom, in the space of one breath, which is the tell, which has always been the tell, that the tears were never grief, but only the first attempt. He was never going to marry you anyway, she hissed. He told me. He said you were exhausting. He said being with you was like being managed. Everyone thinks it. They're just too scared of you to say it. And in the life I am not describing, that sentence would have destroyed me. I would have carried it for a decade. Exhausting. Being managed. I would have made myself smaller and softer and quieter trying to disprove it. And the trying would have been its own proof. This time I heard it for what it was. The most useful thing anyone had said to me in 2 lifetimes. Because she was right? Being with me was like being managed? Because I managed everything. I paid. I planned. I organized. I fixed. I absorbed. I lied on their behalf. I held 100 threads so that none of them ever had to feel the weight of a single one. And they had all mistaken my management for love, and resented it, and reached for a woman who asked nothing of them. And the moment I stopped managing, the whole structure I had been holding up came down on the 2 people standing where I used to stand. You're right, I said. It was like being managed. I managed this entire family, and I've stopped. So now you'll all find out what it was actually holding up. I smiled at her. And I meant it. Good luck with the wedding. Dasam. You'll have to plan it yourself. I closed the door on her the same way I would later close it on Jae-min. Quietly. Completely. And I listened to her stand out there for a moment, breathing, recalibrating, discovering that the sister who could always be made to fix things had gone somewhere she could not follow. And then I heard her heels on the stairs, going down, getting fainter, and I made myself a second cup of coffee. And it was. My mother called me that night. Of course she did. The group chat had become a place she could no longer control. So she retreated to the one channel where she had always won. My phone, my ear, her voice. No witnesses. "What are you doing?" she said. Not a question. An accusation dressed as one, which is my mother's entire native language. "Having dinner," I said. I was. Actually, kimchi stew. It was good. You know what I mean. The chat, the invoice. You did that on purpose. You wanted to embarrass your sister. And here is where, in the life I am not going to describe, I would have exploded. I would have said, embarrass her. She's wearing my dress. He's my fiancé. Are you insane? And my mother would have held the phone away from her ear and later told the aunts that I had screamed at her. My own mother. And the story would have shifted one more inch toward the girl with the hard heart and the loud mouth. This time I put down my spoon. "Mom," I said, "I didn't send those photos. The atelier did, automatically, to the account we set up together. Back when we were all so excited. If the photos are embarrassing, that's not because I sent them. It's because of what's in them." I picked the spoon back up. I didn't put Dasam in my dress. I didn't put Jae-min on that bench with champagne. I just stopped hiding it. There's a difference, and I think everyone in the chat can feel it, which is why you're calling me instead of typing. Silence. The specific silence of a woman who has always been able to reframe her daughter and has just discovered the daughter has stopped accepting reframes. "Dasam didn't mean anything by it," she tried. "You girls used to share everything." "We did." I said. "We shared clothes and a room, and I shared my homework, and later I shared my apartment when she needed somewhere to stay. And now she'd like to share my wedding. And Mom, I want to be really clear, because I love you and I'm only going to say it once. She can have it. I'm not being sarcastic. If Dasam and Jae-min want to be together, they should be. I hope they're happy. I genuinely do." I meant it. And my mother could hear that I meant it. And it terrified her more than any scream. Because a scream she could have managed. I'm just not going to pay for it, plan it, and pretend it isn't happening while they do it in my dress. That's the only part I'm stopping. The rest of it, them, I'm letting go of completely. "You're throwing away your marriage," my mother said, and her voice cracked. Because she had finally understood that she was losing. And my mother has only ever cried when she is losing. "No," I said. "Jaemin threw it away on a velvet bench this afternoon and let me watch. I'm just declining to chase it into the street." I ate a spoonful of stew. "Is there anything else? I have a dressing to finish." There was not anything else. I want to tell you about the invitations, because they became the second machine. And I did not even plan the second machine. It simply followed from the first. The way these things do once you stop holding them shut. I had a box of half-addressed wedding invitations in my apartment, 200 of them, thick cream card. My name and Jae-min's in gold. In the life I am skipping. These invitations became another grief. I burned them. Eventually, in a metal bowl on a rented balcony, and cried, and felt like a cliché, and was one. This time I finished addressing them. All 200, every name on the list, including my sister's side, including Jaemin's mother, including the aunts, including my grandmother. I addressed them beautifully. In the calligraphy, I had learned specifically for this, and I did not change a single word of the printed inner card, which still said, in gold, that Yoon Da-eun and Seok Jae-min requested the honor of your presence. And then I mailed them, not out of spite. Follow me here, because this is the most useful thing I know. I mailed the true invitations, with the true names, to 200 people, the day after the group chat saw the invoice, so that every single guest received, in the same week, 2 facts: a formal gold-lettered invitation to the wedding of Da-eun and Jae-min, and through the grapevine that the group chat had already set roaring, the news that Jae-min appeared to be marrying Da-som instead. I did not have to accuse anyone of anything. I just made the paper reality and the actual reality arrive at the same address in the same week, and let 200 people hold both in their hands and work out for themselves which one was the lie. The RSVPs that came back were extraordinary. Not one of the RSVPs came back over the following 2 weeks, and they were, as I said, all questions. And the questions did more work than any accusation I could have written. Because a wedding invitation demands a reply, and 200 people had received a formal gold-lettered invitation to the marriage of Da-eun and Jae-min in the same week they had heard, through the family grapevine, that Jae-min was actually with Da-som. So they did the only thing you can do when reality contradicts a card in your hand. They asked, politely, in ones and twos. They called and messaged and pulled aside, and every single question was addressed to the family, to my mother, to the aunts, to Jaemin's mother, and not one of them could be answered without saying the true thing out loud. Is the wedding still on? Is it Da-eun or Da-som? I heard something happened. Is everything all right? We got Da-eun's invitation, but someone said, is there a mistake? 200 people, asking, kindly, relentlessly, a question that could only be answered with a confession. I had not made a single person say a single word against my sister. I had simply arranged for 200 witnesses to require an explanation that did not exist. And then I had gone quiet, and let my family stand in the middle of it, holding an invoice and 11 photographs and a mailbox full of questions. My Aunt Mi-kyung, the sharp one, my mother's younger sister, who had spent 29 years watching my mother pour everything into Da-som and take everything from me, and who had never said a word because in our family you do not say the word, called me at the end of the second week. I always knew, she said, without preamble. That was Aunt Mi-kyung. I always knew what your mother was doing to you. I never said anything. I want you to know that I'm ashamed of that. You don't have to be, I said. I do, actually, but that's mine to carry. Not yours. A pause. I saw what you did, with the invoice, and the invitations. You didn't say one cruel thing. You just stopped covering for them and let the truth arrive by mail. I could hear something like admiration, and something older and sadder underneath it. I wish I'd known how to do that at your age. I spent 40 years in this family swallowing it. You just put it in the post. Aunt Mi-kyung became, from that day, the first person in my family who was actually on my side. And it was worth more than the whole wedding, because she was the one person my mother could not manage. And now she was watching, and my mother knew she was watching. Then there was the money, which I want to talk about plainly, because grief is not the only thing you can reclaim. I had paid for everything, but I am an event coordinator, and an event coordinator does not pay a hall its full fee up front. She pays a deposit and signs a contract. And the contract has a cancellation schedule. And cancellation schedules have my entire professional attention because they are how you protect a client. Every vendor contract for that wedding was in my name, structured by me, and every one of them had a clause. I did not cancel a thing while it could still embarrass anyone. But once the date had safely passed, I went down the list, calmly, professionally, and I recovered what was recoverable. The hall deposit, minus the cancellation fee. Refunded to the card that paid it, the catering deposit, held as credit I would later use for my own 30th birthday, which was a much better party than the wedding would have been. The florist, the car, the small deposits scattered across a dozen vendors. I collected them all, because they were mine, and because Yamin, when he asked whether the hall deposit could transfer to his and Dasam's wedding, was told by the venue, politely, that the contract was in Ms. Yoon Da-eun's name and only Ms. Yoon Da-eun could transfer or reclaim it. He called me about it. I let it go to voicemail. He left a long message about fairness. I found the word fairness, coming from him. So genuinely funny that I saved the voicemail. And I still have it. And on bad days I play it. And it works better than anything a therapist ever prescribed. I did not keep the money out of spite. I kept it because it was mine. And because I had spent an entire first life believing that walking away with dignity meant walking away with nothing. That to ask for what I had paid for would make me the grasping one, the bitter one, the one who cared about money at a time like this. That belief cost me everything the first time. This time I understood that dignity and a full bank account are not opposites. That the woman who leaves with her deposits is not less graceful than the woman who leaves with nothing, only less broke, and that there is no prize, anywhere. Jamin came to see me on the Thursday. He had not come when it was a wedding. He came when it was a scandal. He stood in my doorway holding a bag of the expensive tangerines his mother buys, which told me his mother had sent him, which told me everything. Because a man who arrives with his mother's tangerines is a man whose mother has done the math and does not like the answer. "Can I come in?" he said. "No," I said, pleasantly, and I meant it as information rather than cruelty. "But you can say what you came to say from there." He had a speech. They always have a speech. His was about how things had gotten out of hand, how nothing had really happened between him and Dasam, how the dress thing was Dasam's idea and my mother's idea, and he'd just gone along with it, how he still cared about me, how we could fix this if I would just call off the… And here he faltered, because he could not name the thing I was supposed to call off. Since I had not started anything, I had not made a single accusation. There was nothing to call off. There was only a set of facts, released into the open and left there, and you cannot call off a fact. "You want me to fix it," I said. "I want us to fix it. Jamin, 4 days ago, you sat on a bench and drank champagne while my sister was pinned into my wedding dress. And you did not stand up. I walked in, and you did not stand up. I want you to really sit with that. Because it's the whole thing, not the affair. If that's what it was, not the dress, the not standing up. There was a moment. I was in the doorway. Everyone was frozen. Where a man who wanted to marry me would have stood up. You calculated instead. I watched you calculate. And I have decided that I do not want to spend my life married to a man's arithmetic. So that's it? You're just going to let everyone think…" "I'm not making anyone think anything," I said. "I sent a fitting invoice the atelier generated and 200 invitations with our real names on them. That's all true. If the truth is embarrassing, Jamin, that's a problem with the truth, not with me. I've stopped editing it for you. That's the only thing that's changed. I used to spend all day, every day, quietly editing reality so that you and Dasam and my mother could keep being the people you wanted to be. I just put the pen down." He stood in my hallway with his mother's tangerines, and he understood, I think for the first time, that the wedding was not going to be repaired. And that the reason it was not going to be repaired was not that I was angry. He could have worked with angry. Angry was familiar. Angry could be reframed into hysteria over time. But that I was finished, which is a different country, and there is no visa from one to the other. Dassam's going to be devastated, he said finally, which was the most honest thing he said, because it told me who he was already thinking about. Then you should go be with her, I said. You're free. That's what I'm giving you, and I want you to notice that I'm giving it, not losing it. Go marry my sister. Wear the tux I picked. Use the hall I booked. If the deposit transfers, it won't. It's in my name. But you can ask. Have the whole wedding. I hope it's beautiful. I started to close the door. Leave the Tangerines. Dassam likes them. I did not slam it. I want that on the record, because in the life I am not telling you, I slammed every door I ever closed. And the slamming was always, somehow, the thing I got blamed for, never what was on the other side of the door. Only the sound it made. This time I closed it the way you close a cabinet. Quietly, completely, with the small click of a thing that is not going to be opened again. And then I stood in my own hallway, in the sudden quiet, and I noticed something I had not felt in either life. I was not waiting for anything. There was no next move I needed him to make. No apology I was still owed. No scene left to have. The whole enormous machinery of wanting him back, which had run my first life into the ground, had simply been switched off. And in its absence, the apartment was very quiet. And the quiet was mine. And it was enough. The wedding, my wedding, the one on the gold invitations, did not happen. Obviously, but I did not cancel it. And I want you to appreciate the difference one final time. Because it is the whole point. I let its own date arrive and pass. With no bride and no groom and a hall I had already paid the deposit on. And I spent that evening exactly as I chose to spend it, which was at a good restaurant, alone, ordering the tasting menu I had once booked for two, and paying for it, gladly, with the same card that had paid for everything, and which was. There is a thing that happens to a family when the person who absorbed all its friction stops absorbing it, and I got to watch the whole thing, from the outside, with a coffee, like a nature documentary. For 29 years I had been the shock absorber. Every argument between my mother and my aunts ran through me, every time my sister needed money, or a place to stay, or a lie told on her behalf. It ran through me. Every holiday, every crisis, every awkward dinner, I was the one who smoothed it, translated it, paid for it, and made it look effortless. And because I made it look effortless, no one ever knew it was being done at all. They thought the family simply ran. They thought peace was its natural weather. When I stepped out, they discovered that the peace had been a person, and the person had left. My mother and Dassam, thrown together without me between them, did not do well. It turns out that a mother's favoritism is a lovely thing to receive when there is an older sister absorbing the cost of it, and a much heavier thing to hold when the bill comes directly. Dassam had been raised to be adored and to produce nothing, and now she was married to a weak man with a struggling restaurant and a disappointed mother. And there was no older sister to call when the money ran short. Because the older sister had, very politely, gone. I heard the phone calls started within the year. Dassam calling Mom. Mom calling Dassam. Neither of them calling me. Out of pride. And both of them discovering that pride is a poor substitute for a person who used to fix things. Jamin's restaurant closed about 18 months after the wedding. I did not cause that either. Though my mother, in one of her forwarded messages, found a way to imply that I had, that if I had stayed, if I had kept the books the way I always had, the restaurant would have survived. And so its failure was somehow also a thing I had done by leaving. I read that one twice, because it was almost magnificent in its logic. I was being blamed for the collapse of a business I did not own, run by the man who left me, because I had declined to keep working for him for free after he did. It was the entire shape of my first life, distilled into one text message. Everything that went wrong was mine to have prevented. Nothing that went wrong was theirs to have caused. The old me would have felt the pull of it, the urge to go back, to help, to fix, to prove I was not the villain by quietly saving the very people who had cast me as one. That urge had run my whole first life. It is the most dangerous feeling I know, more dangerous than anger, because it dresses up as goodness. I felt it reach for me when I heard the restaurant had closed, and then I felt it fail to catch. The way a hook fails to catch on a surface it can no longer grip. And I understood that I had finally become a different material, something they could no longer hang their consequences on. I did not gloat. I want to be clear about that, because gloating would have pulled me back in, and the entire victory was staying out. I just declined to return. Every so often, my mother would float a message through Aunt Mi Kyung. Your sister is struggling. Family should help family. A real daughter would not abandon her mother. And I would receive it the way you receive weather forecasts for a city you no longer live in. Noted, not my climate anymore. The one who surprised me was my father, who had spent my whole life as furniture, present, silent, absorbed in the newspaper while my mother ran the household drama. A man who had never once, in 29 years, taken my side or anyone's, because taking a side would have required him to look up. He called me, quietly, about a year in, not through the chat, not through my mother. Da-un, he said. I watched it all happen. The dress, the invitations, your mother, your sister. A long pause. The pause of a man who has not used certain words in decades and is not sure they still work. I never stopped it. Any of it. Not the dress. Not the 29 years before the dress. I told myself it was your mother's business, the girl's business, not mine. But I saw it. I want you to know that I saw it. And that I know I should have said something. And that I'm sorry I spent your whole childhood reading the paper while she taught your sister that you were something to take from. It was the longest thing my father had ever said to me. I did not forgive him. Exactly. Because forgiveness was not what he was asking for. He was asking to be witnessed. The same way I had once needed to be. And I could give him that much. Thank you for saying it, Dad, I said. That's more than anyone else has managed. Will you come for the holiday? No, I said. Not this year. Maybe not for a few. But you can call me. Just you. Not as a message from Mom. Just you. Calling your daughter. And he did. After that, once a month or so, short calls. Mostly about nothing. The weather. A baseball team. A restaurant he'd tried. It was the first relationship in my family that had ever belonged to me alone. Unrouted through my mother. Unweighted by anything I was supposed to fix. And it grew. Slowly. Into something small and real. And it was. In the strange arithmetic of what that dress fit, Dasum and Jamin did get married. In the end, I want to be honest about that. Because people expect the substitution to fall apart. And sometimes it does. And sometimes it doesn't. And the point was never whether they ended up together. The point was the terms. They married 8 months later. And it was not the wedding my sister had modeled in the boutique. It was small. And it was quick. And it was paid for by Jamin's mother, who did it through gritted teeth, because by then the alternative was 200 people continuing to ask questions. My sister wore a rented dress, not mine. Mine went back to the atelier because I never paid the final balance, and an unpaid gown returns to the rack. And director Ma, who had understood everything, made sure my sister knew exactly why the dress she had been remeasured for was no longer available. Da-sam wore something off a rental rack, and I heard she cried about it, and I felt nothing at all, which surprised me, because I had expected to feel something, and there was just a clean flat nothing where the wound used to be. My mother did not speak to me for a year. This was presented by my mother as a punishment. I experienced it as the first restful year of my adult life. When she finally called again, it was because my grandmother was ill and the family had to gather. And in the hospital corridor, my mother stood next to me and said, without looking at me, "You made your sister look terrible in front of everyone." And I said, "The atelier sent an invoice. Mom, I've told you that, but I notice you still can't say the other sentence." "What other sentence?" "The one where you ask why your daughter's fiancé was drinking champagne while your other daughter tried on the wedding dress. You've had a year. You've never once asked that question. You've only ever asked why I let everyone see it." I watched my grandmother's heart monitor for a moment. "That's the whole thing. Mom, that's been the whole thing since we were kids. The problem was never what Da-sam did. The problem was always that I noticed. You could forgive her anything. You could never forgive me for having eyes." My mother did not answer, but she also did not leave. And we stood in that corridor together for a long time, two women who finally, at least, understood the actual disagreement, which was more than we had ever had before. Jamin's mother sends me a card every New Year. This is one of the strange soft footnotes of the whole thing. She had chosen me, originally, as the sensible woman who would manage her unmanageable son. And when the son proved the point by choosing my sister instead, his mother apparently decided that I had been right about everything and that she had lost the better daughter-in-law. The cards are always a little too warm. I answer them politely. I do not tell her that I dodged a decade of managing her son. Some gifts you receive by not receiving them, and there is no way to explain that to the person who thinks you lost. I kept the invitations, not out of sentiment. I had 3 left over, unsent, and I keep one in a drawer, and every so often I come across it. The thick cream card, the gold letters, Yoon and Seok Jae-min request the honor of your presence. And I feel the way you feel about a photograph of a house you almost bought. A brief, cool curiosity about a life that would have been so much smaller than the one I got instead. I did get married, eventually, years later, to a man who is not in this story because he does not belong in a story about the other one. A quiet man who cooks, who has never once let me pay for a thing I did not choose to pay for. And who, when I told him this whole history on our 3rd date, did not say anything for a while, and then said, "So your family's boundaries were being drawn on your credit card," which was the most accurate sentence anyone had ever said about my life. And I think I decided to marry him somewhere in the middle of it. We married at the courthouse, and then at a restaurant, with 40 people, all of whom actually wanted to be there. I wore a dress I bought the week before, off a rack. No alterations, no atelier, no account on file, no group chat. It cost a fraction of the ivory silk. No one was measured for it but me. My father came. Aunt Mi Kyung came and cried. The good kind. My mother was invited. I want that on the record. I invited her, and she did not come. Because she said she could not celebrate a wedding that had started with what I did to your sister. And I read that message once, and felt the old hook reach for me, and then, remarkably, not catch. And I put my phone in a drawer and went and got married. Because here is what the dress fitting actually gave me, and it took 2 lives to see it. It gave me the day early. in the version I don't talk about. I found out who they all were slowly, over 11 months, one small cruelty at a time. And by the time I understood it, I had already spent everything fighting to keep it. This time they showed me the whole thing at once, in a boutique, in the clearest possible terms. My sister in the dress, my fiancé on the bench, my mother arranging the light, and all I had to do was not scream long enough to see it clearly, and then step back and let the picture develop on its own. If you take one thing from this, take the shape of it, because the shape is the same whether it is a dress or a nursery, or a phone ringing at midnight or a name signed onto the wrong contract. When someone betrays you in front of an audience, they need you to make the scene, because the scene is the thing that converts their act into your problem. Your outrage is not evidence against them. It is cover for them. It is the loud noise under which the actual event disappears. And the only face anyone remembers afterward is yours, red and shouting. So don't make the scene. Say something so calm it frightens them. It looks better on you. Drive safe. Thank you. You're right. And then find the machine you already built when you still love them. The account on file. The card that paid for it. The record with your name on it. The signature they need. The deposit in your name. You almost always built one. Back when you thought the house was yours, you do not have to weaponize it. You only have to stop protecting it. And let the truth run through the pipe you laid. On schedule. To everyone who needs to see it. They handed me the truth wrapped in ivory silk and expected me to tear it apart. So I didn't. I let it hang there in the light. On the wrong body. In front of everyone. And I let all 14 phones buzz. And I picked up my own card. And I paid for my own dinner. And I went home to an apartment that no one else's arithmetic would ever run again. The dress went back on the rack. The wedding went back to no one. And I, for the first time in either life, went back to nothing but my own quiet.